All right, Gator fans, it is my favorite night of the week. It is Sunday night. We're doing a call-in show because it is Florida Georgia week, which historically one of my very favorites. I want to thank BetUS for partnering with us. They are the sponsor of this show. We're going to talk a little bit of favorite Florida Georgia memories. We're going to take your calls. We're going to talk about this particular game and how we're going to match up with Georgia. So, first of all, I'm going to share a couple of my favorite Georgia memories. I have a lot of favorite Florida Georgia memories, but there was one in, I want to say it was 2005. The Florida Gators beat Georgia, and I have a picture of my husband Eric standing in front of the band conducting them. That will always be kind of ingrained in my mind. But a couple years later, it was, I want to say maybe '08. It was when the year after uh, Georgia had come out and rushed the field after a touchdown. And so tensions are hot. We know that Urban is looking to bring it. Well, we ran into Shelly Meyer going in. She goes to her seats and she stands up the whole game, probably like all of us do, right? Well, the people behind her are used to going to just NFL games and they didn't want to stand and they yelled to her and told her to sit down. And Shelly Meyer whips around, looks at the people and tells them, I bet you have a couch in your living room. So why don't you go sit there? And then turns right back around. They had no idea, who they were talking to when they were yelling at her and telling her to sit down. But one of my favorite Shelly Meyer memories of all time. See a bunch of you guys hopping in the chat. Hello. Thank you for joining me. If you guys are interested in calling in, we'd love to have you. Let's go to Zach, though, and let's talk a little bit. Zach, you can tell me, your favorite Florida Georgia memories. You can tell me how you think we stack up here. I want to hear it all.
Well, my favorite Florida Georgia memory was it was 2002, and it was the first time Georgia was ever predicted to beat us. It was Ron Zook's first
Yeah.
season, and I think David Green threw an interception, and then Gus Scott ran it back for a pick six, and then shortly it was the game winner. Rex Grossman threw a touchdown to Ben Troop, and then we go for a touchdown, and then Rex Grossman shortly saw an opening and then scores a 2-point conversion, and then that sealed it.
Yep. That was a good one. I was a senior in high school that year. That was
Yeah,
we always tended to I don't know, cut their heart out during that time period. I feel like they anytime they were supposed to win, we somehow figured out a way to get it done.
yeah. But I hope the game is just somewhat competitive on Saturday. I hope we don't. I hope I'm not saying we're I don't I'm not saying we're not gonna lose or anything. I just want it, not to get be a blowout
Yeah.
because we're playing the number two team in the country. And but last week against Kentucky, it was my first game in the swamp since 2001. I came up from Knoxville, and it was just a great trip. And I just saw Florida played so well for me, and it made it so special for me. And I just saw if Florida can play like that, I know it was Kentucky, but if Florida can play like that the rest of the season, then maybe they can be competitive in these games in this tough schedule.
Yeah, I mean, they were putting points up and it's almost one of those which team is going to show up kind of moments. And I do, it's fair to acknowledge that in the teams that we have beat have been not great teams, and the teams that we have lost to have been, at this point, 3 top 10 teams now, right? But when Florida shows up, they can put up points. I feel like they could probably score with the best of them, right?
Absolutely, because we saw how the game played out with Texas and Vanderbilt, and it didn't. And if you're, I'm not saying if you're a Vandy fan, you need to be happy with the way Vandy
Hmm.
finished in that game, but maybe it shows that Florida can play with Texas also,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
and
think, go ahead.
Ole Miss is all Ole Miss is also beatable.
Well, and LSU, LSU lost to Texas A&M, and I think there is a pathway to victory in all of these games. Now, that doesn't mean that it's likely, but I do think that there are some winnable games. I think there's teams that have shown us blueprints for that. Like, we talk about Kentucky not being that great of a team, especially with Auburn having beaten them on Saturday, but it was 13-12 to Kentucky lost to Georgia. That's a
Yeah,
pretty close game. So if there is something in that film that we can glean from that, and use, and I mean, I do believe we're going to score with Georgia. If we get into a track meet, do they have more horses? Probably. But I do think that it's not like they're going to shut us out, right?
exactly, because Gators don't get shut out, and
You better
I
find
hope
some
I
wood to knock on right now, just in case.
knock on wood. That's right. We haven't been shut out since '88. So,
Yeah, I mean,
but
hopefully that streak continues. But I do think they're beatable. And in Texas, watching Texas Vanderbilt, that game does almost potentially maybe seem more possible to me than Georgia, only because I know Kirby will have Georgia ready to play on Saturday. They
oh
hate us. It's such a intense game. I think there's much more of a chance Texas just isn't concerned about Florida. Georgia's always concerned about Florida, right?
yeah, that was when Georgia beat Texas. That was Texas's welcome to the SEC wake up call.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's not that Texas is not good. Obviously, they are a great team, but it is just different when you battle week in and week out in the SEC against top competition. It's not the same as getting up for, 2 or 3 games a year. It just isn't.
Right, and I'll be watching that game on Saturday with my whole family. I'm the only Gator fan in my house, living in Knoxville. So,
Yeah.
but they root for the Gators with me. So
Well, good.
they're good people to live with. So,
All right. Well, Zach, I appreciate you. And hopefully our Gators will pull one out for us on Saturday. If anybody else
all
wants to
right,
hop in and talk sports, let's go. I do want to talk a little bit about this upcoming game. And I do think that, Georgia is not invincible. I think obviously that they are more than capable. I think Kirby Smart will have them ready to play, but I don't think that they are just this completely invincible machine that maybe we thought they would be earlier in the season. They're coming off a massive 30-15 win at Texas. Obviously 6-1, 4-1 in the SEC. They're ranked number 2. But they haven't lost to us since 2020. But this is a competitive rivalry, right? We hate each other. I almost feel like you can kind of throw records out the window. Even last year when Florida was, pretty pitiful for at least the first half of that game, they hung with Georgia. So, and I think the spread is just absolutely downright disrespectful. They opened at minus 18 and a half. And that just, I don't know, that just seems like a lot. And if I am Billy Napier, that is plastered all over the locker room. And this team really feels the disrespect of an almost 20-point spread in a rivalry game. I know that Kirby will have his team ready. I hope that Coach Napier has gotten to the point where he is just embracing the concept of rivalry games. That's something that Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier did better than almost anybody in the game, right? You have to hate your rivals. And you've got to think that with ETN playing for Georgia now, that there is got to be some of that fire in this team, right? Some of that hatred for Georgia because they took their boy. And I mean, I'm sure that they still like ETN as a person, but man, that guy abandoned them. And right or wrong, he plays for the red and black now. So hopefully that is going to add just kind of another level element to this game. And this team is playing well, right? They have not quit on this coaching staff. DJ Lagway just brings a new skill set to the quarterback position. I feel like we've talked ad nauseum on this channel about the fact that he has a lower floor than Graham Mertz, but man, is his ceiling sky high, right? So is there a chance we're going to see some freshman mistakes? Absolutely. I feel like that's to be expected. But there's also a great chance we see some ESPN top plays out of him. And, I do think there's a chance he could be a little bit of an X factor. And, we've watched Carson Beck get flustered this season. Think about that first half of the Alabama game. And I'm not trying to equate Florida to Alabama by any means, but we watched Carson Beck really get flustered. And if this defensive line can get after him a little bit, there is a chance you can get him to make some mistakes. And I think the path to victory for Florida obviously includes some mistakes from Georgia. They are the more talented team on paper, right? They're the more experienced team on paper. I think that we're going to need not only a close to perfect game out of Florida, but some mistakes out of Georgia, but definitely possible. And this defense is getting a whole new test, right? They have gotten better since the bye week. They were really good against Mississippi State and UCF and Kentucky, but can they do well against a much better offense? We are going to see, did we really turn a corner, which has been the buzzword for the last couple of weeks, right? That the defense turned a corner. Or were we just not playing as talented of offenses as we were when we were playing Miami and Texas A&M at the beginning of the year? We're going to get that answer on Saturday in Jacksonville. I am just so interested to see if this defense can keep up. I'm going to look and see what some of y'all's comments are over here. There's a lot of you that thinks that Coach Napier still needs to go. And I don't necessarily disagree, but I think that we're going to see what plays out the next couple of weeks. I think that, and I don't love the concept of 6-6 being the standard. It's not the standard. But if we said at the beginning of the year with this schedule, if he goes 6-6, he probably gets year 4. I don't know that anything we've seen changes that. It doesn't mean we like the product we've seen on the field, but if we finish at 6-6, I do think that he's probably coming back, and I think he'll have Lagway with another year under his belt. A lot of these young guys who we're seeing step up, LJ McCray, Pup Howard, people that we're watching kind of develop right in front of our eyes. We're going to see, right? And somebody else commented that he needs to hire an offensive coordinator. That was kind of the ultimatum in year 3, right? And Napier decided to live or die by his own play calling, and that's where we are. So I don't know that I think it's fair to say, okay, well, we're going to bring him back, but it's conditional on this if he doesn't hit the 6. I think he's got to hit the 6 regardless, right? That is, if that's what we said the benchmark is, that's what the benchmark needs to be. And maybe the benchmark's 7, right? Maybe it's get to a bowl and win a bowl, but it's a tall order to hit 6. You're talking about Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. Let's consider Florida State a gimme, right? I mean, and no game should be gimmies, particularly not rivalry games, but Florida is better than Florida State. I don't know that we can say Florida is better than any of the other teams the rest of the season. Therefore, they're going to have to steal one. And a rivalry game is ripe for the picking, right? You can throw records out the window. You can throw rankings out the window. Maybe this is one that they pick out. I just want to give some love quickly to BetUS. The Gators are a 3-touchdown underdog to Georgia this weekend, and you can bet now using our code YouTube150 for 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your next 2. All 3 of those up to $2,000. I appreciate BetUS for their support. This game could potentially save Billy Napier's job. So it means a lot. It means a lot to these players. It means a lot to these coaches. We already mentioned the ETN factor that's going on. So is that enough? And if it's not enough, if Florida doesn't win, does it matter if it's close? If it's a blowout, is that, so much worse? And you look at this differently. If Florida plays Georgia close, is there some sort of moral victory in that for you? I want to know in the comments. Let me know. Let's read some more. I'm only concerned with what DJ Lagway and the players on this team think about the coach. And I don't know why fans want to go on social media and talk shit about our coaches. How does that help us? So, George, I get what you're saying here in that you don't think the negativity helps, but I also don't think it's the fans' job or the media's job to be sunshine pumpers. I think that it's okay to call a spade a spade. The line for me is personal shots, at people, families. There are things that are absolutely out of bounds. But talking about the fact that our coaching has been subpar, that there are exact instances where you can point to that are coaching blunders that cost us, I don't think is out of bounds, right? I think it's calling a spade a spade. I think that's one, the media's job. And then two, fans have a right to do that, right? I don't, when we pay money for tickets and we buy those jerseys and we, support this team in the pouring rain, we have a right to have an opinion. Guys, I had a couple of you hop in and then it fell out. So I don't know if we were having some technical difficulties, but guys, call in. I would love to hear what you have to say. Kenny Roberts says, last time we beat Georgia was with a good quarterback, Kyle Trask. I think DJ is just as good. I do too. I think DJ Lagway is a massive X factor in this game. I think he gives Florida a really good chance in here. Michael Dixon, Georgia's a first half team. We've been playing both halves lately and are definitely smoking. And our defense is smoking. We can smoke them all. Not impressed with the teams we've played. We play are in the second half of the game. They're D. Well, Georgia wasn't a first half team against Alabama. I'll tell you that much. But, if we go into halftime and it is close or we're up, tied, we're still in it at that point. I do think that's a really good position for Florida to be in. PM 113, do you want to be mediocre for the rest of the time? Keep Napier. Do you want to contend for a national championship? You have to fire Billy. And that may very well be the case. We are watching, let's take Elko at Texas A&M. They lost a lot of guys to the transfer portal when they fired Jimbo Fisher. And here he is, year one, really positioned well to make the playoffs. Now, they did well in the transfer portal. NIL at Texas A&M is definitely popping. So, does that have any part of it? I don't know. Jay Bateman's also their defensive coordinator, who Coach Napier wouldn't make the D coordinator here. So, a lot of questions about that, but we are in a what have you done for me lately time period in college football. So show me or get out is kind of the attitude. So I understand what you're saying for sure. Gabe says Gators play their best and Georgia fumbles the ball twice and we got game. Listen, that would be awesome. I would love that. We got Shelvin in there. So we're going to, it just disconnected there. So if Shelvin hops back in, we will jump over to him. I'm going to continue to read a few more of your comments. 3 years of terrible coaching for starters. This is Jim Martin. All the promises never realized. I think that's part of fans. Obviously winning, right? That's fans' biggest issue with Coach Napier is that the Gators have a higher standard than 5-6 or 6-6 or whatever. We want to win. We want to compete for SEC titles and national titles. But you're right in terms of the things that were promised to us. When you say we're going to be the most organized team in college football, when you say we are going to be the most disciplined team you've ever seen, we're going to be the most in shape team you've ever seen, when you're going to see, follow our process and it's going to be so meticulous. And then we kind of don't see those things. That you gave us the blueprint of what was going to happen. And now the outcomes aren't what you promised. It is hard to swallow, I think, as a fan, and the flip side of that is you're never going to hire a coach who goes to a press conference and is like, guys, I don't make any promises. I have no idea what's going to happen. That would not make us feel any better as fans either. But, largest coaching staff in America, most prepared. We're going to focus on the details that's probably his worst quality is the details, right? And maybe that's because the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing because the staff is so big. I don't know. That's speculation on my part. But I do think that is part of fans' frustration is that we were told very specific things from the horse's mouth that have not panned out. We weren't just told, listen, we're going to get to work and we're going to do the best we can and we're going to win as many games as possible. That would be coach speak, but yeah, everybody's trying to do those things. Okay. There's nothing we could circle back to, but we can when we lose games because we had 12 men on the field or because we called Mayday when we didn't need to, or because we fumble in the end zone or whatever. And those are all attention to detail problems. It is frustrating. I get that. K Swiss says Napier and Strickland need to go. I don't disagree. George, where are all these experts on coaches coming from? When was the last time you were consulted on hiring a coach for a major college football team? What's on your resume? Listen, I have told Florida I am willing to help them hire their next coach. For some reason, they are just not interested in that. But in all seriousness, I have eyes, right? You guys all have eyes. We can see what a good product is. We've lived through a good product at Florida. This is not a good product. Does it mean these players aren't fighting? No, of course it doesn't mean that. They are fighting, right? They have not given up on this team. But does it mean this is a good product? Absolutely not. Jim Martin, sorry I was for Napier, but no more. Willie Peterson says we're gonna shock 3 teams on our schedule. Listen, if we shock 3 teams, that would be awesome. Would love it. We would save Coach Napier's job. We would have a head start with Lagway going into his sophomore year. He was going to have a ton of SEC experience. We got another gauntlet of a schedule next year. And then we'll be ready for year 4, right? I'm the supporter of whoever the coach is of the team. And if Napier wins enough this year, it will be him next year. But we will see. George says, after we beat Georgia and Texas, I want you all to go kneel on rice and then stand in the corner for an hour and publicly apologize for talking bad about our coaches. Listen, if we beat Georgia and Texas, I absolutely will do a video apologizing for not being all in on this turnaround that has taken place. And let's be clear, I want Florida to win. I want Florida to do better. All right, Shelvin, it says you're in there. Can you hear me? TJ's going to try and go to Shelvin if he can. Shelvin, are you there? I cannot hear you. TJ, are you hearing him? Oh, let's try there. Shelvin, are you there?
Hey, Allie, you hear me?
Yay, gotcha. Third time's the charm. Okay.
Hey, good.
We're talking Florida, Georgia. Tell me either your favorite Florida, Georgia memories, or if you want to talk about this game coming up on Saturday, we can go into that too. What do you think?
Oh, my stars, Allie. I've got so many Florida, Georgia memories, probably 25 or more. I was a little kid. I was 11 years old, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Lindsey Scott running to that opposite end zone, and it just broke my heart. And there is nothing like beating Georgia. When FSU and Georgia play, I seriously do the tomahawk chop. That's how much I despise Georgia. So I've got that. I will say, and hopefully I won't get chastised by some of the audience tonight. Um, I do, looking back now that I'm in my 50s, I I wish I'd have been old enough to appreciate the incredible athlete that I was seeing in Herschel Walker. But I was just a young kid that was so mad that he was beating the pants off my team 3 years in a row, and
Right.
then the ribbing I would have to take at school that next Monday. That boy, 1984, can still remember that. Roger Sibble getting the fourth and goal stance for us there, and then Kerwin to Ricky Natil. Several of those games obviously with Spurrier. One of my favorites was '92 when Georgia, I think they were number 4 in the country, and we upset them and we won the division that year. And Shane had an incredible game.
Yeah.
But those are some of my memories. Can't wait to be there Saturday to hopefully see the upset. It will be interesting. I'm hearing some of your callers tonight, and I'm seeing some of the comments. I don't know what will it do to guys like me and you, who would really want to see a coaching change. What if all of a sudden he wins one of these next 2, and what if he goes to Tallahassee and wins? What if we
Well, you
pull
better go
one
to
of the 2
Tallahassee to win.
upsets?
If you don't beat this Florida State team, I think it is an immediately fireable offense.
Oh, without a doubt, I'm with you all the way on that. So I don't know. I hate to be wishy-washy on it, but if he gets 7 wins, that means he's pulling off some of the biggest upsets in the history of the program. So
Well, and
I don't know. I don't know if you can fire him.
you're probably like me though. They're like we root for Florida to win, right? No matter what, 100% every
Yes.
Saturday we root for Florida to win. And if that means that saves his job, great. That's not a bad thing for me. It means my team is winning. I'm not capable of being a fan that would purposely root for Florida to lose because the person I don't necessarily think is doing a great job as a coach would potentially then lose his job. Like I don't, he's our coach, right? He's our coach until he isn't.
Yeah.
But more than that, I want the Gators to win.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way I would ever say, "Hey, I want us to lose this game so we can get a coaching change." I wouldn't say that if we were playing, North Texas State or Vanderbilt. I want the Gators to win every game,
Right.
and I'm with you on that. So appreciate you, Allie. Thanks for
All
doing the
right.
show
Well,
again.
thanks for joining. We'll talk to you later.
Yep.
All right. Looking at a few more of your comments. PM 113 says we'd get in a position to beat Georgia and get called for 12 men on the field. End of game. Well, we're going to bookmark that in case that happens. You will be able to hear me screaming at my TV from Tampa if it does. Stephen Blackwell says anything is possible if our defense continues what they're doing and if Lagway plays lights out. And I agree with that stance. PM3, we would get in a position to beat Texas and Billy will run a sweep. End of game. We're bookmarking that one too for you. And Jim says, I'm cheering on the team, but I'm also realistic. And I feel like that's where I am, right? Like that's kind of the position that I'm in. I feel that it's unlikely that he wins enough in the next 6 to save his job. If he does, great, because that means my team won more than they were supposed to. That means we're a little bit better positioned to go into the next season than we thought we were going to be. All of those are positives in my mind. Do I think they're likely? No, but there's pathways for it. And it would be a good thing if it did happen. Let's see what else we got. Do you think that her parents named her Allie so they could call her Alligator when she was little? So my full name is Alexandra. My dad nicknamed me Allie because he was a big Muhammad Ali fan, but my grandfather called me Alligator till the day that he died. And so I will always respond to Alligator. Kangoo Titan says Billy knows he has to be aggressive. If our play calling is aggressive, we will win. I do think he has to be more aggressive than his own tendencies to be. Will he? I don't know, but I do agree there. Michael Dixon, Napier, he recruits good. We have very good players and coaches all around. They're stepping up. We are only going to get better because of the players. They're going to play their ass off no matter what. I do think that you can look at programs where coaches are on the hot seat and some quit and some dig in. And this team is digging their heels in and fighting harder. And I do think that is a credit to Coach Napier. They obviously want him to still be their coach. They are fighting for him and this staff. And I do think that counts for something, right? These players do want him here. Now, if you are a college football player and you're telling me, I love my coach, please don't fire him. While I think that should be acknowledged and it's way better than players quitting on their coach, I do think there's also a situation where you don't know what you don't know, right? You think your coach is the best coach in the world because it's the only college coach you've ever experienced. And then you get a coaching switch and you're like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. Like my husband talks about how they didn't want Zook fired. They loved Zook. They thought they were giving their all for Zook every single day. And then he's like, and then Meyer came in and we didn't know what we didn't know, and we fought so much harder. We dug so much deeper. Our workouts were so much more intense. And all of these things were things they thought they were doing all along. And they didn't know any differently because Zook was the only coach they knew. So I think it's really great that they are still bought in. Nobody's hitting the transfer portal. Nobody's asking for a red shirt so that they can leave. And all of those things are positives and they're a credit to Napier. I just don't think they should be the end all be all in decision making because 18 to 22-year-old kids don't necessarily know what's best for them. Jim Martin, 6-6, and he will, meaning save his job, but it's just delaying the inevitable. Clayton Young, we beat Mississippi State with our defense playing terribly. Our defense definitely turned a corner since the bye. George, I would love to see what happens with our recruiting if we do beat Georgia and Texas. Me too. And, that's another piece of this puzzle, right? We have the 51st ranked recruiting class in the country, 15th out of the 16 SEC teams. That's not good. That's not what he was brought in to do. We got rid of somebody that was considered an elite game day caller and an average recruiter in lieu of what was supposed to be an elite recruiter and a pretty darn good game day caller. And I don't know that he's lived up to either one of those labels yet. Now, DJ Lagway was an incredible pickup. I think LJ McCray was an incredible pickup. I think you can give him kudos for Pearsall and Graham Mertz, how he used the transfer portal. Sometimes he gets credit for all of those things, but being ranked 15 out of 16 SEC teams for next year's recruiting class is absolutely 100% not good enough. Dan Mullen never once had a class as bad as this class. So will that turn around if we beat Georgia and Texas? I hope so. Now, recruiting is so different than it used to be. So many guys are committed. A lot of these guys will sign early, which has now become kind of the main signing day, right? Nobody really hangs around till February anymore. December, they're committed, they're in. So it is going to be hard either way, I think, to close well with this class, but beating Georgia and Texas sure as heck helps us. Johnny C, FSU is a gimme. I mean, I think that too, but it is also a rivalry game, but I do think it's a fireable offense to lose to this FSU team. Willie Peterson, he doesn't need to run dumb plays at the wrong time. Well, yes, accurate. George, I would love to hear what the national media has to say about the mighty fighting Florida Gators if we win those 2 games. Listen, it'll be a huge success story, right? It'll be all over ESPN if we figure out a way to beat Georgia and Texas in back-to-back weeks. It'll be huge. And LSU and Ole Miss, I mean, listen, if Florida figured out a way to end up with more wins than losses in this last 6-week stretch, it would be one of the best stories in college football this year. Do I think it's happening? Probably not. Is it possible? Absolutely. Johnny C, FSU is trash. Agreed. Clifford Abernathy, what if Coach Billy gets an OC at the end of the season? I think he needs an OC. My problem with saying it now is that he was given that ultimatum before this year, and he decided he wanted to bet on himself, which I can wrap my head around, right? If he feels like play calling is what got him into the position that he's in, and that this was the year that kind of made or broke his tenure at UF, I can get betting on yourself. But I don't know that he gets to be told that ultimatum, not win the number of games he needed to, and then year 4, be like, okay, now we're really serious this time around, hire an offensive coordinator. Like, you should have done that last year, probably. Matt Green, from what I watched this weekend with Texas and Ole Miss, we definitely have a chance of beating them too. That's all I'm going to say. And with LSU taking a loss, I think we can get them. I do think that there's a path to victory against all of those teams. Jim Martin, drop some cash on UF beating those 2. George, you'll make a mint if you really believe it. That's true. If anybody wants to throw some money on them for me, I'll take it. George, I don't think we're quite in the position to take anybody for granted yet. I agree. I just think this is the worst FSU team we've seen in a really long time. And that's crazy because we saw Willie Taggart coach teams not that long ago. And I do think this team, not only talent profile wise, but with my own eyeballs, having watched them on the field this year, is worse than Florida. So yes, it's a rivalry game. No, we can't take anybody for granted. This team is bad. And if Florida can't beat them, I think it's not a good sign. If it's only a field goal game, do we beat Texas? I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Every time we get in the red zone, we better at least walk away with a field goal. Stephen Blackwell, man, I can't stand Kirby. Right back at you. Michael Dixon, all of these games are beatable. That's true. Let's see. 6 is not enough. Nicholas says 6 wins is not enough. I'm not saying it's enough for me. Like, I want to see more if he only wins 6. When I say 6 is enough, I have been told by people within UF since the summer that 6 was the number that the powers that be were looking at him to hit for him to get year 4. And I still believe that that's the case. That was consistently told to me all summer long. So do I want a 6-6 Gator team? Of course not. But in terms of whether or not they're willing to pull the trigger, I have been told that if he hits 6, he would be safe. So, and I personally think that there should be some eyeball test that factors into that. If you get blown out in every game that you play a halfway decent team in, and you just beat, the barely breathing ones to get your 6, does that count for anything? I don't know. But 6 is the number I was told. Joan P, Napier play calling cost us the Tennessee game. I agree with that. Clayton Young, talking about the coaches needing to be fired hurts recruiting. Our play on the field is what hurts recruiting. These kids have eyes. These kids see this. every single coach that is recruiting the same kids we are is telling them the exact same thing. Gator fans could say nothing, and these kids would still absolutely hear all of it. That's just the world that they live in, 24/7 social media. Nicholas is pretty adamant he's not keeping his job with 6 wins. So I guess we shall see. We'll see if he even gets 6 wins, right? And we did have the hardest schedule in the country. And I think we're seeing this come to fruition, right? Like you're talking about Miami in the top 5 now currently. Texas A&M is in the top 10, and their only loss was a Notre Dame team at the very beginning of the year. And I do think that those out of conference first week of the season games, that matchup may look very different had it happened at the end of the season. Tennessee is a good team. I know that LSU lost to Texas A&M, but I still think LSU is a good team. And Ole Miss, who the hell knows, right? It's who shows up, but they're still up there. We play some incredible competition. Miami is, looks like they're going to walk into the ACC championship game and the playoffs. So I just think that there is a lot of talent on that schedule. And we do have to give some credence to that. I just also think there's some really winnable games. That Tennessee game was winnable for us. I do think that Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State, some of those are winnable for us. Johnny C he says, I'm a Miami fan. Can I call in? Of course. We'd love to hear from you. Matthew Walker, Lagway hasn't done enough to be considered on Trask's level. You can say he has better physical traits than Trask, but we need more time to make that conclusion. I agree with that, but I think Trask is incredibly talented. And I think the point of the comment was the last time we beat Georgia, we had a good quarterback, and we haven't had a great quarterback since. And I mean, I know we had Anthony Richardson, but I don't know that you would call him the bastion of consistency when he was at Florida. So I think that was more the point than the fact that Lagway is as good as Trask. So Alan is asking for the number. It's in the description of the video. There's a couple people that were asking for the number. It's in the description. We are probably going to wrap up in a couple minutes, but if you want to hop in real quick, go ahead. I think if Gator fans, Clayton says, I think if Gator fans don't see the improvement, they just don't want to. I think for some fans, if we win out the rest of the season dominantly, they'll still want Napier fired. I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, if they win 5 or 6 of the next ones, I'll be the captain of the Napier train. We can only go with what we've seen so far. And while I think this team has turned a corner in terms of their effort and their fire, is it enough to overcome some of the other operational issues? That's kind of what I'm not sure of. UF is in the business of making money, not winning footballs. Maybe that's true. I don't know. I had to scroll down. Y'all have so many comments. Dustin says it would be great to win versus Georgia and a shot to rub it in on Trevor Etienne for the transfer. It would be awesome. George, I don't see any reason why we don't win a championship with DJ and LJ and the other guys we have and put another statue outside the stadium where DJ gets a Heisman. Listen, I think he is Heisman potential 100%. I think he is just special. And so, I'd love that. Rob S., Miami beat us worse than they beat FSU. Why are you so confident we beat them? I don't trust any team that Billy's coaching. Well, I don't necessarily trust any team that Billy's coaching either, Rob. So I don't disagree with you there. Watching that game last night, I don't know. I just think that Florida State is a worse team than us. I think Florida is playing better football at this moment than Florida State is. I had a Florida State guy that watches this very closely tell me essentially he felt like that Florida State was only playing to keep it close, to keep Miami from blowing them out, that they knew they weren't going to win. I don't think that's the way Florida played them at the beginning of the season, but we are a lot better team today than we were at the beginning of the season. I don't know that you could find an FSU fan that would say they're a better team today than they were first week of the season. Okay, well, John has called in, our Miami fan. What's going on, John? Hold on 1 second, John. We're going to get you on. I'm getting the 1 minute finger from the producer. All right, hold on. Well, while he's trying to get John in there, I'm going to read Gator Phil. Allie, there's absolutely no benefit rationale to keeping Billy at 6-6. The current class is garbage, and they will likely get even worse if Hanks and Brown defect, the worst words in sports. I don't disagree, but I have been told that that's what the benchmark was for this year. I don't disagree. Let's see. All right, John, I think we got you now. What's going on, buddy?
What's up? You could hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Eh. Um. First off, go Canes. Gotta say that.
You can. Y'all have earned that as, carrying the trophy of the state. You are allowed to say "Go Canes" on a Gator show now.
I would say the biggest problem with UF and FSU is that you hire lower tier coaches, and that's what Miami did for 20 years of not actually spending the money to get a solid coach that's been proven. So I think until that happens, Napier is not the answer. I could guarantee if they keep him, they're not going to win 10 games next season. If it's another 6-6 season, what's the point of keeping a coach like that?
Yeah, but I mean, Norvell and Napier are both making like top 10 coaching money, right? So it's
Yeah,
not.
because you guys paid them that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not like they cheaped out. They got somebody that didn't have the resume, but they certainly paid them like they had the resume.
No, yeah, that's true. I mean, you paid him like that. I think Norvell got that extension because of that one season he had. But
I mean, his
I
back
think,
$65 million at this moment. They're definitely stuck with them.
yeah. So, but I think until you kind of like, at least not hire coaches that are not proven, I would say. I mean, because I don't think anyone realistically thinks that the Gators are going to win 10 games next season,
right?
With this coaching staff, at least.
So you obviously watched the Florida-Miami game and the Florida State game very closely. Which team did you think was a better team?
Oh, by far UF.
Yeah.
I think FSU just looks lost. Like their coach is looking up in the sky, like praying that something's going to save them. And it's UF, at least to me, look, even though it was worst game, like on like
paper
score wise, and yeah, it looked like it was a blowout. FSU just was never in the game, like at any point in that game. The team just looked like they're just lost. They don't know what they're doing. So,
all right. Well, we appreciate you calling in. You get to enjoy your current 8-0 season.
Yeah,
hopefully next year, maybe the Gators can return the favor from this year to you guys. But have a good night and enjoy the rest of the season.
You too. Take care.
All right. We got Christian. We're going to go to him next. What's up, Christian?
ALI, what's up? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Okay. So tell me your favorite Florida Georgia memory, and then tell me how you think we stack up on Saturday.
Got to be 2008 after coming off that heartbreak of 2007 when Georgia, those bums, they rushed the field on us with that no Sean Marino touchdown. And coming back that next season, and really it wasn't even a game. And what do I expect?
All those
I'm not holding my.
too. That was great.
What am I expecting? I'm not expecting us to win the game. I think it'll be more competitive than what we thought initially before the season started. And can I ask you something honestly?
Sure.
And it's not even about Florida, Georgia. It's about Napier. So you mean to tell me this don't feel like 2004 all over again? We got a Gatorade National Player of the Year coming out of high school like Chris Leak.
Yeah.
Same thing with DJ Lagway. We were never going to get over the hump with a lovable, likable coach like Ron Zook and all the team. Only thing you see the team doing right now is playing their hearts out for their coach. Nothing wrong with that, albeit if it's going to produce a W. But, why keep Napier if we're going to lose another year with DJ? Why not bring in a winner and get 2 more years with DJ Lagway, a generational talent? And you see where I'm going with this. What you think?
I lived that season, right? My husband played on that 04 team. And,
Sure.
The difference is at this point in the season, he'd already been fired, right? Like he got let go on the plane ride home from the Mississippi State game. And I don't know that we live in an era where a coach can keep coaching as a lame duck like Zook did. But then we did watch them, get some wins. And, obviously the favorite is the day that they dedicated Bobby Bowden Field. Ron Zook, lame duck coach, gets carried off on the shoulders of his players because he beats that Florida State team. It was freezing that game. That game is forever ingrained in my mind. And, I think Ron Zook is probably sitting in his lake house in Ocala right now, wondering how in the world he gets to go, like that Napier gets to go 6-6, and he, produces a team that 2 years later won a national title. He recruited all of those guys. And
Which leads me to my next question. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Why are we giving Billy Napier the kind of grace that we didn't give Muschamp, McElwain, nor Mullen? I mean, At least Muschamp gave us 12 wins. McElwain, 2 SEC championship appearances. Mullen, 3 New Year's Six bowl games.
In a
And
row.
I'm tired of people also with this whole, oh, we fire coaches in their third season. No, we don't. The only one time that's happened post Urban Meyer was Jim McElwain.
Right.
So I don't know where people are getting that from. And funny enough, if you look at our history, the 2 times that we have done that post Steve Spurrier, it's been followed by much success, which is the point I'm trying to get at. We got rid of Ron Zook after his third season, brought in who? A coach that brought us 2 national championships. Got rid of McElwain, brought in a coach Mullen, 3 New Year's Six bowl games. Why not do that now?
Yeah.
It can all happen again if we make the right hire. I just don't want us to lose one more year of Trey Wilson gonna go pro, Jaden Ball, DJ Lagway. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah. Well, and I agree. And I think that there's some similarities between the situation that happened with Zook and with McElwain in that the athletic director knew for sure they could get their guy, right? I think that, Machin was president of UF. He had been president at Utah before. He knew for sure that he could have Urban if he wanted Urban. And I think that Strickland had a relationship with Mullen and knew he could get Mullen. And so it's easier to pull the trigger at 2.5 years into an experiment when you know you can get the guy that you're going after right away. And I think that brings us kind of to the situation where we're in right now. And that's part of the problem. If we had a president, a real president, as opposed to an interim one, I think that would make a difference. I think if we had an athletic director whose, own job should be, if it's not for sure, but should be tied to the success or failure of Napier, you don't get to hire and fire 3 football coaches, right? Like that doesn't seem, you should get to pick the next one. So he has some real interest in Napier working out. And so I think that compounds this problem.
Hey, Allie, I'm gonna take it in. I'm about to go eat some food. Hey, Gator Nation, God bless y'all.
All right. Bye, Christian. Thank you so much. All right. So Randy says, because the administration's trying to let Napier cook. I mean, I guess, right? I mean, I know we at the beginning listened to him tell us that the foundation was going to be built out of cement, not wood. It was going to take time. And that's true. But we're watching all of these teams around us win with a coach that has been hired after Napier was hired and with the talent profile that they came into that was lower than what Florida's sitting at. So something is broken there. But Liquid Flames, like Gator Dave says, firing coaches isn't the problem. Hiring the right one to begin with is. I agree. And I do understand the concept of it becomes a less desirable job if you only have 2.5 to 3 years to fix it. But that is the era of college football that we're in. And I think there's an argument to be made that we could have given Muschamp more time. He was an OC away from being successful. I personally can wrap my head around the concept of giving Dan Mullen some more time. I understand that he seemed incredibly checked out by the end, but he also brought us 3 New Year's Six bowls. And I know he was not getting the answers for things from administration that he wanted. So I think there was some rationale to him being checked out, but I don't see the rationale here. I think the only legitimate argument can be made that you want to make sure that DJ Lagway stays. And I think that that's important. But if you're going to sign the 51st ranked class and that's the expense of keeping him, I don't know that I think that is worth it. You are not going to win conference championships, let alone national championships, by signing the 51st recruiting class in the country. You just aren't. Rob S., a decent to good head coach, comes in and wins day one with this roster, including McElwain, Mullen, and Muschamp. That's how bad Napier is. Dan Mullen would cook with this roster. I can promise you that. User 123, even though UF isn't what it used to be, I think it's safe to say both Gator and Miami fans are drinking FSU teams this season. Listen, it's the only thing keeping me sane. Q Lee, Strickland hired 10 coaches and 4 not there anymore and 2 sexual harassment cases. Yeah, I think there's an argument for him not being the athletic director at the University of Florida, having nothing to do with football. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you for joining me. This was fun. We will do it again next week. Hopefully, it will be in celebration of a giant upset over the Bulldogs. If not, I am more than happy to commiserate with y'all. on a loss. So we will see. I've got lots and lots of more content that'll be coming to you this week. We'll have some interviews. Maybe I'll run that go to hell video with Georgia again. Oh, Zaire says score prediction for you for the UGA game, 35-28. UGA wins in a close one. Well, we're going to see. But before I get out of here, thank you so much to BetUS for partnering with us on this video. We appreciate them. And shout out to Liquid Flames for the super chat. Appreciate you. He says, love the channel. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. All right, guys, have a good rest of your Sunday, and I will talk to you soon.